Holiday seasons are here, and it's about time that we write out our wish list. We're going to start with football on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks as always for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day, and of course, a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. You can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Thank you guys so much at Game Time. We are back to talk Arizona State sports. We're going to be creating a Christmas list over the next 2 days. So we're going to be taking a look at football today. Tomorrow will be basketball. I think that football is going to be pretty self-explanatory. There's 4 major things that I wrote down. Obviously, we can go into real big detail. I left out any kind of transfers, although with hindsight, I think I could have included Elijhah Brown on here as one of the guys that I really hope the team gets this weekend. The former super high 4-star / 5-star running back prospect who left USC and is heavily favored to end up at Arizona State. So here's kind of the honorable mention is I want Elijhah Brown for Christmas. I think that'd be the big, really exciting present to open. But there are quite a few other things that we're going to be asking for Christmas this year. And we'll go ahead and start with, the elephant in the room, and that's health. We need better health in 2024. We absolutely got destroyed on the depth chart. Like top 2 units for depth chart, right? Like your 22 starters on both sides of the field plus the backups. It felt like you were just going through them like tissues, and it was brutal. It was very difficult for the team to overcome. Obviously, the 3-9 record is very reflective of that, but even beyond the record, I mean, you could just tell watching those games that Arizona State was really struggling to keep up with everything. And I think the best example is that Washington game where Arizona State held the Huskies out of the end zone, but they couldn't pull the win away because they couldn't kick field goals. And Kenny Dillingham said himself, we don't have the personnel to roll out and be able to kick field goals right now. I mean, when it's that desperate and that bad, you're just not going to win very many football games. And unfortunately, that is exactly the case that the Sun Devils found themselves in this year. And it wasn't just special teams. Offense was ravaged, especially along the offensive line. They went through 4 different quarterbacks this year. 6 players threw a pass for the Sun Devils. It doesn't get much worse than that. Defensively, they were banged up all over the place. They were missing some key players throughout the year. Clayton Smith, who was very good for the team, I don't know that he ever played 100% healthy. It felt like he was walked off the field at least 3 different times in 3 different games this year. Like he was still so good, but just imagine if they had been able to keep him on the field. And you were missing guys in the secondary, and the linebackers were up and down throughout the year, and you just were dealing with so many different problems. You're punting. Oh my God. Josh Carlson was saying he was punting on a bad foot. And it's like, why are you doing that? But that was the situation that the Sun Devils found themselves in this year, was they are so decimated by injuries that it's really difficult to sit here and come up with a better strategy for what to do. When you're that shorthanded, there's only so much you can do. Even Kenny Dillingham said in a press conference, hey, seriously, if you're a big kid on campus, please come to tryouts so we can see if you're capable of making it on our team right now. it got that desperate for Arizona State when it came to special teams, as they were willing to take guys basically off the street to be able to file them out there. Well, come 2024, if you're going to be taking that next step forward as a team, you also need to see that everybody can stay on the field, because if you run into that problem again, you're just not going to win a lot of football games. Like, it's out of your control, obviously, which is why this is on a Christmas list, and why I'm hoping Santa Claus will bring some better luck to the Sun Devils. It's not something within their control. So maybe the big fellow will be able to help us out, because you do wonder how differently this season goes if guys stay healthy. If the offensive line is able to continue any kind of continuity. They had a different starting five in 11 games this year. It might have been every game. They had a different starting five in every single game. At worst, I think it was 11. That's not great, ladies and gentlemen. It's not great at all. If you have that continuity in the offensive line, I'm just curious what happens. If Jaden Rashada gets to play all 12 games, what does that look like? There's so many questions that we have that have us wondering what this season could have been. Because there was a handful of games that it felt like Arizona State should have won. Oklahoma State, Washington, Cal. I mean, those three by themselves get you to be bowl eligible. Those are three very winnable games. Arizona State was in more games than they were out this year. Yeah, they got crushed by U of A. Yeah, they got crushed by Fresno State. They went toe-to-toe with USC. They were crushed by Oregon. Like, there were more wins here than not. They got crushed by Utah. They should have beat Colorado. I mean, just looking at that, you could have been a 7-5 team if you beat who you were supposed to beat. And the common denominator in those losses was not a healthy Jaden Rashada. If Jaden Rashada is healthy, it's hard to think that this offense would be worse than what it was. In fact, I think it's very fair to say that it would have been better than what we ended up getting. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I really hope that we're able to kind of move forward from all the difficulties that we had to face this year. I think that's my bottom line is you get healthier, you should be able to it's obvious that you play better. But I feel like a healthier Sun Devils team might have been able to overcome some of the deficiencies they had this year. Yeah, it was always going to be a difficult season. Yeah, it was always going to be chip stacked against you, and you had the self-imposed bowl ban and everything, but this team had resilience. Give me a healthy offensive line, give me Jaden Rashada, and give me consistency on defense with guys like Clayton Smith and Prince Dorbaugh. I feel like you're right at that 6-win team. I feel like you might have been a 7-win team. They had a lot of grit this past year, and it's very commendable what they were able to do when you consider everything that was placed against them. I hope that this is going to end up being a team that is just going to continue to be better moving forward, but obviously there's more things that we're looking for from this team. There's more needs that we have. There's more items that we're going to be taking a look at to figure out whether or not this is truly the core and the center of all the problems. But our list will continue as we take a look at more things that we're going to be wishing for Christmas for Santa to bring us. We're going to be talking about that more in just a moment. Once again, this is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Got to talk to you about our friends over at Game Time. Guys, if you're looking for last-minute tickets at the best prices that you can find, then you need to check out Game Time. Download the app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time is relevant for everything that you can think of. I mean, it's not just sports, which they got you covered for baseball, football, basketball, hockey, but they cover comedy events and theater events and just about any other event that you can think of. They have all-in prices, so there's no hidden fees. You know exactly what the price is up front. They have zone deals, and let me tell you, one of the things that I love about those zone deals is making sure that you're able to get those really good prices when they come up. But here's the best part is they have tickets that go up to an hour after the event time was scheduled to start. So your game starts at 2, you can still get your tickets at 3, and you're going to get a good deal. And of course, not only are you getting a good deal, but you've got that price guarantee. So if you find tickets in the same section and row for less than what Game Time is showing, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. You can see those seats before you buy them too, so you know exactly what to expect when you get there. Game Time is great. Highly recommend it. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. As always, thanks again for tuning into the Locked On Sun Devils podcast and making us your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And of course, a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Y'all are the best. Y'all are the MVPs. Let's go ahead and continue on our Christmas list here. And the next thing up, give me back Elijhah Badger. Right now, Badger has yet to make a decision on his future. And it feels like he's going to be coming back. But we've been down this road before, and there have been times where it feels like we should expect to be disappointed, so we're never disappointed, right? We were told by Jaden Daniels he was coming back, and then he ended up transferring from the program. We have been burned before. Elijhah Badger has yet to make any kind of official decision on his future. Like, he hasn't said he's declaring for the draft. He hasn't entered the transfer portal yet. We're really kind of waiting for the shoe to drop and figure out what he's going to end up doing. When he ends up doing, I have no idea. What I do know is having somebody to replace Badger does not feel possible as of now. They have talent. You've got Guillory, who was fine, but he just disappeared in the second half. I'm very much on record of being a pretty big Troy O'Mary fan. You'll have, what's his name? Melquan Stovall will be back. That's good news. You've got young guys like Caleb Black. But a guy like Elijhah Badger, that's difficult to replace. Badger is, without a shadow of a doubt, the true established number one receiver on this team. He is what makes this offense tick. He is what he's basically the offense as far as I'm concerned. Yes, Cameron Scadaboo does everything. He runs, passes, punts, catches it. Like, he does everything. But you take away Elijhah Badger, this is an offense that goes downhill very, very quickly. Because Badger attacks every level of the field. He can be a deep threat just as easily as he can catch it behind the line of scrimmage, just as easy as he can catch it over the middle. He's a red zone threat. He's yards after catch. He's yards after contact. He's just the guy that gets everything moving. He's your big play guy, too. Last year, it felt like when you needed a big play, Badger was going to be the guy that you needed to go to every single time. He is the part of the offense that keeps you explosive and keeps opposing defenses on their toes. You take away Elijhah Badger, you're just not going to have fireworks, and you're not going to have enough explosiveness on the offense to be able to keep those defenses honest. Because it's really easy to corral the line of scrimmage and take away a run game. Short of you having like a Derrick Henry kind of running back, just about any guy is going to be suffocated at the line of scrimmage. It's just tough. It just, there's not much that you can do as a team when it gets to that point. With Badger on the field, everything is more opened up, and it makes life easier for Cameron Scadaboo. It makes life easier for whoever the quarterback is, whoever the receivers lined up across from him. And that's the next part of the puzzle. It makes life easier for whoever the quarterback is. And right now, the quarterback of the future is Jaden Rashada. Rashada's back. He is hyping up this team. He's helping recruit. He is going to be the quarterback for 2024, hopefully beyond. He's uber talented. He's got a big arm. What he needs is a consistent, reliable, explosive number one receiver to throw to. And that's what Elijhah Badger is. He checks off all those boxes because he can be a safety valve just as easily as he can take the top off a defense. Badger last year had 65 receptions. That's with literally 6 different people throwing him the football. He proved to be reliable no matter who was under center. Now you give him a redshirt freshman who was very up and down, but definitely showed a lot of promise. You give him that security blanket and a veteran savvy guy, because Badger will be going into his redshirt senior year, I believe. It's perfect. It's exactly what you are looking for to help that young quarterback develop. And a young quarterback who didn't get enough playing time this past year due to injury, which we're already wishing for a better slate of moving forward, it's what Rashada needs. He needs Elijhah Badger. You take Elijhah Badger out of this offense, like whether he declares, whether he enters the transfer portal, I'm nervous. I like Stovall. I like O'Mary. I like Guillory. I like Elijah Besa if he does end up signing his letter of intent, which it feels like it's up in the air right now. I like Bryce Pierre. I love Jaden Fortier, but he's a freshman. I like the weapons you have. I love Elijhah Badger. Taking Badger out of this offense is going to be so hard to overcome. It's one of those where as of right now, I don't know how you would overcome it. Having Badger back in the folds for 2024 feels so imperative for this team to be able to build off of a 3-win season, to be able to get better offensively. It was a very up and down team offensively last year, but I'll tell you who wasn't up and down. It was Elijhah Badger. Taking him away from this team is going to be incredibly difficult to overcome. So he's definitely the second thing on my Christmas list. I have 2 more items that I have on my Christmas list, and we're going to discuss them in just a moment. This, again, is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Guys, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Prize Picks now. Prize Picks is so much fun. You can do basically daily fantasy with football and now basketball. And if you want to do combo projections with both of those leagues, you head over to the Specials League. It's a league created specifically for combo projections. It includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. An example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo for 3 points made and receptions. If you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can. Find them in the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community every week. Prize Picks also has a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player that exits in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player's rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform that has an injury insurance policy. Of course, there's quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. It's what makes Prize Picks number 1 in daily fantasy sports apps. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the promo code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the promo code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. One more time, a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and a big thank you to everybody for making the Locked On Sun Devils podcast your first listen of the day. Your team every day, thanks to the Locked On Podcast Network. And of course, if you haven't heard yet, Locked On Sports Today on YouTube is your first ever 24/7 streaming service streaming channel when it comes to being up to date on the biggest news in sports across all leagues. So check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever 24/7 streaming. Let's go ahead and wrap up our conversation with our final two items on our, what's it called, Christmas list. First one, consistency. Offense, defense, special teams. This is going to be a part of the health. You need guys to be healthy. But when I'm looking at consistency in the three phases, the first is going to be offensively. I want there to be consistency at the quarterback position more than anything else. And I want to continue to see the unorthodox offense that kind of makes ASU unpredictable, but you just need to be able to see that they can do it on a week-to-week basis. Defensively, this is just in terms of play. Like, they had great games and they had horrible games. You need less of the horrible and much more of the better. So we need to see that in there. We need to see that the Sun Devils are going to be able to find ways to improve on a week-to-week basis and a matchup-to-matchup basis. I understand you went up against some great quarterbacks. You went up against Bo Nix this year, and he diced you. But you went up against Michael Penix on the road, and you shut him out. You kept him out of the end zone. So I know you're capable of doing it. I know for a fact that you can handle great teams. But you need to do it every week. That's my thing. I want consistency. I don't want the wishy-washy, back and forth, hot and cold defense. You're either good or you're bad. And I know that you can be good. I know you can be great. So that's what I want to see out of you. I want to see a great defense. Special teams, look, man, I need my punter to average more than 40 yards. Like, you were not getting that out of Josh Carlson. You weren't getting it out of Ian Hershey. Your most reliable punter was Cameron Scadaboo. That can't happen. That absolutely cannot happen. You need better play on special teams. Punting, you need it. Kicking, Dario Longhetto was up and down, which is kind of what we're used to out of kickers in college football and ASU in recent years. But whoever is going to be kicking for you, whoever's going to be punting for you, whoever's going to be returning, just be consistent. Again, either be good or bad, be hot or cold. Like, I don't want it to be week to week fluctuating, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not this is going to be a reliable unit or this is a unit that I need to worry about. That's where I'm at with that. So figure that out, get it cleaned up, move forward. Final piece of my Christmas list. Goes without saying, beat U of A. That's all I care about. Every single year, I think Kenny Dillingham put it perfectly. There are two seasons. There are two football seasons at Arizona State every year. The first 11 games, and then the Territorial Cup. That's the one that we care about the most. That's the one that we're highly anticipated for every single year. And ASU has not lost back-to-back Territorial Cups it was almost 15 years. But they just lost back-to-back. And I'm not trying to start a losing streak. I'm not trying to lose 3 straight. You're going down to Tucson this year. Or next year, I should say. I want to upset them in their own stadium. I don't care if they're 0-11. I don't care if they're 11-0. And vice versa for us. I don't care if we're 11-0. I don't care if we're 0-11. I want to go down there and I want to spank them. And I want to win. More than anything in the world. That's all I want. I want to win that game. That game means more to me. It means more to the fans. It means more to the players, the alumni. Everyone cares about that game. So, again, that could be your only win of the year. I'd be happy. I would be happy with getting that win down in Tucson. That is, it's not necessarily the biggest part of my wish list. I would tell you that's probably the health But it's the most exciting part is beating Arizona. That's the one that we're all hoping for. That's the one we're looking forward to. That is my short, sweet, to the point Christmas list. I'm curious what you guys are going to be asking for Santa for your Arizona State Sun Devils football team. Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Brads36 in the podcast as well, at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you get your podcasts, though, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day. And of course, a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. I will see you guys again tomorrow as we make our Christmas list for basketball. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked